Alright guys, I swear I'll make it quick today, but I did want to walk you through, in case maybe you weren't here today or you didn't grasp what we were doing as we were constructing as a class, the stuff that I had you do for homework. We were reconstructing it to make sure we had quality short answer responses, which means that we followed our strategy of providing a thesis statement, that we restated the question and gave a basic answer, and we also supported it adequately with direct quotes from the text. Because remember, we're not the experts, the authors are the experts. So we only paraphrase if we absolutely need to, but most often we can actually pull details directly from the text and use them to prove our thesis. And here's what we did today. So this is the packet that begins with earth, water, and air. I keep wanting to call it earth, wind, and fire for obvious reasons. Earth, water, and air, but it's the articles that that follow it. Race to the Klondike and all about the Klondike gold mines that we talked about today, because those were what the two short answer response questions had to do with. So we started with the first one that had to do with a text feature that appeared at the end of the article, A Race to the Klondike by Lester David. So here's the question. Explain why the author of the article, Race to the Klondike, included the section entitled A Heavy Load. That's the text feature that's attached to the end of the article. Use two details from the article to support your answer. Well, hopefully you can see this. This is the quality response that we constructed, and I kind of summed up the 5 different classes, because we all had sort of different answers, but they were all kind of revolving around the same thesis, the same topic, and used this pretty much the same supporting details to support ourselves. So here's a summary. We use the question and give a basic answer. We RSQ and give a basic answer. That way we know we're going to actually answer the question. We've already got 1 point on that rubric. The author of the article, Race to the Klondike, included the section entitled A Heavy Load. Directly from the question, right? 2, show what prospectors had to carry to survive and how hard it was to travel. Notice that that's a quality crafted thesis statement that does answer the question. Now we have to go about proving it. So if we're showing what the prospectors had to carry, we need to say why they had to carry it. So we found this direct quote. In the passage it states, with the risk of starvation increasing, mounted police ordered that every man heading for the trails must have a year's supply of provisions. Okay? We found that directly in the text on line 30. It starts on line 30 in the section entitled Battling the Numbing Cold. We just copied it directly from there because we know it's a quality support for our thesis statement. Okay, so now we showed what they had to carry. Now we need to show why they had to carry it to survive and how hard it was to travel. Okay? It also states, as in the passage, because we just mentioned the passage, some miners carried up to 2,500 pounds of goods over the rugged trails. That shows how difficult it was to travel, right? That's all the stuff they needed to survive for the year, and that's how hard it was to travel. Now, some people in some classes wanted a concluding statement to wrap it all up. We decided it wasn't necessary, but if you did want one, that's fine. That's fine. We might say something like, this shows why the author might include a list of all the things they had to carry. Totally great to sum it all up. If you didn't use it, that's fine too, because we covered that in the actual thesis statement. Now, we look at this. This is part of a formula, and it should be a little easier than what you've been making it, because look, the only stuff that's actually our own words is that. Half a sentence. The first part is the actual question, and we just restated the question. This is our answer. This is our words. This is what we are putting out there as our thesis to show what prospectors had to carry to survive and how hard it was to travel. But now we're just using the passage. And I don't count in the passage it states, because you don't have to think about those words. You just know that that's what we need to do to indicate that that's where we got the information from. The rest of it is directly from the text. See, that's what they want to know if you can do. Can you read a piece of text, have a thought about it, and support that thought directly from the text? Hopefully, this is much clearer to you and you're freaking out a lot less about it than you were in the past. This, by the way, doesn't only work in short answer responses in ELA assessments. It works anywhere. Anywhere you have a passage and you have to answer questions, like let's say in social studies in a DBQ, or in science in a lab situation, or even in math in a word problem to show your work, you can really use this anywhere, these strategies. Take the thesis and then use the text to find it, because that's what the text is provided for. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, this has to do with the second passage. Afterwards, it had a short answer question that said, explain what part of the journey to the Klondike the authors of both articles would most likely agree was the most dangerous to make. Use one detail from each article to support your answer. Aha! Now we've got a comparison question. We're asking what both authors think, so we need to include evidence from both passages. And it even tells you, use one detail from each article to support your answer. If we give a quality thesis statement and 2 supporting details, but we only give them from one article, we've missed out on full points. So we need to make sure that as we're going in, we understand that and we're looking in both places to prove our point, because we're talking about both authors in our thesis statement. So we use the question. The part of the journey to the Klondike both authors would agree was the most dangerous to make was Chilkoot Pass. Now, because we've got a quality thesis statement, right? Both articles talked an awful lot about Chilkoot Pass as being the thing that people were just like, oh, I'm selling everything I've got and I'm going back. I don't want to do this, right? So this is the most dangerous to make. Well, then we went back into the text and we said, okay, got to find one from one article and one from the other article. Well, if we're talking about Chilkoot Pass, it's great to talk about the reactions that people had to it, but really remember, we're talking about the part of the journey, not people's reactions. See, we have to remember that. When we establish it in our thesis, we have to talk about it in our support. So we're talking about the passage itself, not necessarily people's reactions to it. So let's take a look. In Race to the Klondike, remember, we say in the passage it states, or according to the passage, or in the article it states, but when we're talking about 2 different ones, we have to reference them specifically so our audience understands and connects to where we're getting the information from. In Race to the Klondike it states, again, in the passage it states, sometimes the temperature plunged to 50 below. They huddled in caves during blizzards. End of that quote. That's a great one, because it shows the actual part of the journey and what happens there that makes it so dangerous. But we have to use it from both articles. We say in All About the Klondike Gold Mines it states, again, in the article it states, we're just using the actual name of it here to indicate to the reader what we're actually talking about. There is a blizzard blowing most of the time, and when it's at its height, no man may cross. Again, we're talking about the conditions, not necessarily how people are reacting to it. Sure, it shows what they can't do, but again, mostly what we're talking about is the actual pass itself. Well, take a look at this answer. There are only 3 words that were our own from this whole thing. The rest, before it, was from the question. This was our answer in blue. The rest of it is our support. Again, don't make this too hard on yourselves. All they want to know is, can you look at a piece of text, form an idea about it, and use the articles themselves to support your idea. That's it. Don't make it that hard. But, again, put in the effort. I had a lot of people say, oh, Mr. Kaz, that's a lot of copy and that's a lot of words. I don't want to write that many words. Can I write fewer words? Guys, don't be lazy. Don't make our legacy here smart but lazy. Okay? We know how to break this down. Put in the effort. You don't even have to do a ton of thinking. You just have to put in the effort and do the work. And you know how to do it, so you should do it. That's how we get better. That's how we improve. We work to our best every day so that by the next day our best is better. That's how we approach things. So, people ask me during class, weren't there other details that we could use for this? Yes. We agreed as classes that these 4 details that we provided for these 2 short answer response questions were the best that we could find. Because remember, The state test loves to ask you for the best response, or the best choice, or the best evidence. So we wanted to give the best. There were other things you could use that would be perfectly acceptable. And what I've done, if you take a look, I will attach this to the bottom along with the packet that I handed out today. That's homework for tomorrow. Remember, it's the final 2 passages of the packet that starts with Martin Eden, but you're not doing Martin Eden. You're doing the Quest of the Silver Fleece, which is by W.E.B. Du Bois, who is one of my favorite authors from the Harlem Renaissance, that movement in the 1910s, 20s, and 30s in New York City that saw people like Langston Hughes and a host of other African-American authors, poets, playwrights, just you name it, the artist movement of the African-Americans in New York. It was amazing, and W.B. Du Bois is one of my favorites, so don't blow off this assignment. There's also the poem Home, okay? You are using those 2 passages to answer questions 11, 12, and 13 using these strategies, which means you're writing at least 3 sentences per, which means at least 9 sentences for homework. Put in the effort, it's going to pay off, I promise. But again, going back to this, I'm sorry I went on a tangent. What I did for each of these, and hopefully you can see them and I'm in the right actual place, I highlighted on my passages where I found the supporting details, and all of the different supporting details rather than just the ones that we talked about. They're attached at the bottom along with my the packet that I handed out today. Like I said, I'm not including the actual essays yet on the answer sheet down there because I don't want you guys to see the extended response answer that I've crafted for what we're going to be doing tomorrow or Friday in class, depending on when we get to it. Or sorry, tomorrow or Thursday in class, depending on when we get to it. So I will include these things in the actual body of the post today. You can look at them there and use the highlighted portions to see about where your supporting details were, and we can move on from there. Again, don't forget your homework for tomorrow. We're going to be doing a similar thing in class where we're walking through it together, we're constructing together, and I'm going to actually let you have the reins on one of them to come up with the best answer you possibly can, maybe in groups, maybe in pairs, depending on how I'm feeling that day. All right? Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.